Hi there, David Costello from Jetpack Workflow and Growing Your Firm podcast. Wanted to spend a few minutes today to walk through the 1120 tax workflow diagram. Now, if you are viewing this anywhere but the blog, you can always get more information at jetpackworkflow.com/blog, where we have more free videos and free interviews that you can check out. So with that in mind, let's spend a few minutes to walk through what the 1120 workflow diagram looks like, how it functions, and how you can recreate the own in your firm. So first, you're going to go through what we call the receive and confirmation bucket. And this is all the information around getting the client documentation. And you can imagine, and you've probably experienced this, is that this bucket is where you get one of the biggest bottlenecks in terms of the process. And that would come right here in terms of info missing. And oftentimes, we'll set up a workflow diagram and we'll assume that, this is completely on the client that the info is missing. And one thing we talked about in the article was that this could be an onboarding issue. This could be a communication issue. This could be something that you can actually put a process in place to make sure that you get the proper and correct information on time instead of chasing clients for different information. So the first part is all about receiving and confirming. That's the first bucket we're going to look at. And the reason I identified info missing right away is because we always want to identify the bottlenecks or the areas that are perhaps slowing down the entire process. Next, we'll look at something like process and fulfillment. And again, a major bottleneck that can occur here is you got the information, you think it's the correct information, but there's still some key items missing. And again, this could go back into onboarding and making sure that there was a proper onboarding sequence or the client expectations were there and they understood what they needed to submit, how they needed to submit it, and that whole process was very, very fluid. And so step 2 is all about understanding the process and fulfillment and making sure the client expectations and even the client understanding is there. Common frustration among clients is that they, give the accounting or tax firm the information, they don't know what's going on, and then 3 weeks later they get an email or they get a bill or they get an invoice and they don't really understand the value. So it's really important not only to get the internal information and the internal workflow set up, but then as you're moving through these buckets to also think through how the client is experiencing this service, and is there an opportunity to communicate the value that you're delivering during bucket 1, 2, and of course number 3. Which leads me into the third bucket, file and follow-up. And this is the place where, the 1120 is closed out. It's going to go through the final review, and you're going to schedule that final client meeting, whether that's in person or on the phone. And, it's really critical at this moment to do 2 things during the client meeting. One, if you haven't received payment yet, make sure that it's very clear before the meeting that the client is expected to bring the money for the final invoice, and so our hope is that it really cuts down on your accounts receivables. But then, also you want to talk about any additional, tax strategies or tactics or even services that you might provide to help them prepare for the following year, maybe ways to save money or reduce their tax for the following year. So this meeting is a great way to cut down on the accounts receivable and just another opportunity to really demonstrate your knowledge and your value. Of course, in this workflow diagram, in this image right here, we also have some very common questions, and we call it questions and actions that you can go through in terms of creating your own 1120 workflow diagram, in terms of identifying those bottlenecks, of how to add and communicate additional services. And of course, if you like this video, feel free to share it with a friend or a colleague, and you can always get more free information, more free videos and interviews at jetpackworkflow.com/blog. Thank you so much for watching.